Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Good day.
Good day to
I know
you.
it's morning or evening.
It's midday here now. It's noon.
It's noon, so good afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. What time is it where you are?
It's midday as well. I'm in Boston. My name
Okay.
is Omaid Sharifi. I work at ArtLords. It's an organization out of Afghanistan. We do street art, murals. So basically, we use art as a tool for social change in Afghanistan and in the world.
Okay.
And currently, I'm stuck in Boston since I had an exhibition here in the US, and after this Corona, I couldn't go back home. So I'm here, and very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. I must admit that I was a bit nervous about this blind date thing, especially like when I was waiting in the waiting room, kind of like, they told me, David and Cedric, they told me we would make like a short introduction of ourselves before we start our talk. Should I start?
Please,
Yeah.
I'll be very happy to know.
Yeah. My name is Jón GNARR, and I live in Reykjavík, Iceland, and I'm a comedian, writer of books, and I'm also a playwright, and I've lived in Iceland for most of my life, except I lived for 2 years in Sweden, and on 2 occasions I have lived in Houston, Texas. I was in 2009. After the financial crisis, and Iceland was, I don't know if you know about that, but Iceland
I know
was,
about it, yes.
yeah. Iceland was hit like really hard by it, and then I formed my own political party, called the so-called Best Party, and I ran for the municipality elections here in 2010, and it was just a group of me and people who had never been directly involved with politics. It was artists, mostly writers and musicians, and we won the elections, and I was the mayor of Reykjavík for 4 years, from 2010 to 2014, and and since I left office, I have tried to, focus back on my artistic work, and mostly I've been working. I'm also an actor, both in television and on stage. So I've been focusing on my work in the theater. I've written plays. I write 1 or 2 plays a year, I would say, and next year I will start a master's program at the Arts University here in Iceland. It's a MFA, Master of Fine Arts. So where I will focus more on playwriting and especially absurd, the theater of the absurd and surrealistic techniques in theater.
Wow, that's amazing. I think Cedric has mentioned you many times. So I always know you that you were the mayor of Reykjavik, and that Cedric was coming to visit you. I'm very happy to meet you. So as I said, my name is Omaid Sharifi. I lived all my life in Afghanistan. I don't know how much you know about Afghanistan. So since I was born, we were in trouble, in a conflict, and it still continues. this is the first time for me that I have lived for 85 days outside Afghanistan. So it means I was
Wow.
both raised, educated, worked, living, and then doing all my work in Afghanistan. I never ever left that country.
Okay.
And do you see the background I have here, the
Yeah,
mural?
yeah. The
So this
eyes.
is the eyes. This is the first mural we did back in 2014. Uh,
Okay.
and this is how the organization started. I used to work in different places. I worked for the Afghan government. Worked for the international organizations working based in Afghanistan.
Uh-huh.
And then in 2014, we started this organization called ArtLords,
Uh-huh.
which is sort of, we wanted to change the narrative around the Lord, because there's a lot of drug lords, warlords, and all the negative lords in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, why let's introduce the positive lords, which is the art lords. And we did this mural,
Uh-huh.
I See You, which is the eyes. And this is the presidential palace of Afghanistan, by the way. And
Okay.
this was a campaign against corruption, because
Uh-huh.
Afghanistan has been on the list of most corrupt countries in the corruption perception index for a very long time. But I
Yes.
know that the Afghan people are not corrupt. This is just that politicians and the people in the government or outside the government who are very corrupt, but the actual people are not. So
No.
uh,
Yeah.
this mural, this campaign started, and then the whole organization started.
Uh-huh. So it's like the eyes of the public. It's like the eyes of the common person. Which,
Exactly. It says
yeah.
that, look, I see you. I know you're stealing my money. The
Uh-huh.
people are saying, I know that you are corrupt. If I cannot take you to justice now, I will
Mm.
take you to justice. History will judge about you. And this is done by all the people. So the moment we go on the streets, we start painting a mural, we invite everybody to join in. So it doesn't matter if you're a kid, a woman, a police officer, a person selling stuff on the streets, you just come in, get a brush and start painting. It
Yeah.
is that platform where everybody gets a voice, and
Yes.
they just raise their voices through these murals.
Uh-huh.
And now we have done around, I think, 1,800 murals all over Afghanistan and some other countries.
And
So
is that never causing a problem, with the authorities, Is it?
it does
Yeah.
actually, Afghanistan is the place that even a normal living will cause
Yes.
you a lot of problems, because if you're walking on a street, there is the potential that the terrorists will do an explosion.
Yes.
If you go to buy groceries, there's a chance that something will explode in that grocery store. So there has been that kind of a situation for a very long time. And
Wow.
the civilians, everybody, we lose a lot of good people in that country. And for us as well, doing murals, and especially against corruption, against countering violent extremism,
Mm-hmm.
against promoting issues of women's rights and human rights.
Yeah.
This has been very sort of both controversial and also challenging the authority, challenging the terrorists at the same
Yes.
time. So we did have our share of threats, our share of challenges, calling us that they will kill us, they will call us infidels, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So all those type of names and stamps and allegations. But you
Okay.
know what? This is my country. We have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And we cannot just sit around and see all the wrongs that is happening.
Well, I find that extremely brave, what you're
Thank
doing.
you.
Yeah. And encouraging.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you.
yeah. So have you been in the US now for 85 days?
Yes,
Did you?
so we 25th January actually I have the everything the date. I came here, we had an exhibition in DC, in New York, in California. We had speeches because I wanted, right now all the news is about a peace deal in Afghanistan. And
Yes.
actually this is not an actual peace deal, it's a deal that the Americans signed with the Taliban, and Taliban are a terrorist group and they're killing people every single day.
Yeah.
But we wanted to use this opportunity because peace is very important for me. I was born in a war and still I am living in a war. It's more than 40 years of war and killings. So we wanted a stop to this. And when
Yeah.
we came to the US, we wanted to talk with different groups of people, think
Yeah.
tanks, universities, Afghan diaspora, and also exhibit our work,
Yes.
show them what the people of Afghanistan think about peace. What is an
Uh,
inclusive peace? What is peace for me?
yes.
As an Afghan who lived all my life in war, what is peace for me? So we just wanted to explain that to the American society.
Yeah.
But this thing happened. We were supposed to go have exhibition in Tokyo. We had an exhibition in Nepal. We had events in Germany, which unfortunately all of them got cancelled or postponed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully things will get back to normal, and we will be able to do all of the stuff that we were doing.
Yeah. Eventually, I mean, eventually everything will get back to normal, especially when they find, a vaccine. So yeah, I mean, but how many are you in your group?
A total of 53 people right now.
52?
53, yes.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
we have, at this moment, our offices are closed since 1.5 months, but
Okay.
we had 7 offices. We have 3 offices in Kabul. We
Uh-huh.
have an art cafe. It's called Rebel Art Cafe.
Uh-huh.
We have our gallery. We have our office in Kabul. And then we have one office in 4 of the provinces, which are the major population areas in Afghanistan. So
Okay.
53 people used to work, and we call them artivists, which is artist and activist at the same time.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So you're using art as a tool. You're an
Yeah.
artist. uh,
Yeah. I think of there is a rock group, a secret rock group that operates from they are working in Iran, and they perform in burqas. Do you reckon? So they make they film in secret locations like rock songs, and they're all women in burqas. I assume they're all women, and they post it on YouTube.
wow.
And yeah, and nobody. It's like Pussy Riot in Russia or something.
I know about Pussy Riot. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it's extremely brave. I think, and I really admire people who just dare to do things like you are doing. It's just,
Appreciate it.
yeah, and like,
Well, if you're just imagine if you're born in Afghanistan and you experience everything firsthand. You experience poverty, you experience corruption, you experience war, you experience explosions. So you experience everything firsthand, and then you cannot just simply sit around. You have to do something, you know?
yeah, yeah,
You have to go around and find a solution
yeah,
because there's a lot of good people are dying. They are starving. Imagine right now in Afghanistan, we are talking about isolation and quarantine and staying at home because of this pandemic.
uh-huh,
53% of our population, we are talking about 18 million people, they are living under the poverty line.
yes,
Means they just, if they have something to eat, a piece of bread in the morning, they don't have anything to eat in the night.
no, and they
They will
don't have access to healthcare or
nothing.
nothing.
The whole country, I think, has around maybe 100 ventilators. The whole country.
Uh-huh,
So, and people will starve to death. They don't have any other option but to get out and work on the streets. So, this is a kind of situation you find yourself. And
yeah,
then, if you don't do something about it, you will feel suffocated. And this is
yeah,
exactly the same thing with us, with ArtLords. It's not, we don't think we are doing something extraordinary or brave. It's not, it's just part of my life. And there's a
yeah,
lot of people like us back there in Afghanistan who are doing this. I
yeah,
think we have a direction.
yeah, yeah. So yeah. So yeah, being a rebel, you're rebelling. Yeah, but you know the yeah, I would say yeah, there's a term I like to use. It's the peaceful warrior, and I think it's a term I coined from Bruce Lee, to be
Oh,
a peaceful warrior, and to fight with peace as your weapon and art as your tool, or speech. And I've had the honor of meeting so many brave people from all around the world. I was involved in and I am involved in a network, in an organization called ICORN. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's International Cities of Refuge Network. It
okay.
operates all around the globe, and it's cities that welcome a persecuted artist, writer, journalist to come and live safely and anonymously in hiding somewhere. But
Okay.
and I've met so many through the ICORN project, and I made Reykjavík an ICORN city when I was a mayor. So we welcome artists like every, I think, 3 or 4 years. You get a new person who comes and stays here for 3 or 4 years, and it's just, and you know, like meeting people who are working, you know, as peaceful warriors around the world in sometimes incomprehensible circumstances, you know, where people are fearing for their life and security all the time. Wait, I'm going to have to close the door because
Okay.
hello? My wife is home with our grandson. So I
Okay,
just stood up and closed the door. Yeah, and it's absolutely amazing, and like so many people have gotten into so much trouble with just simply with art.
yeah,
And yeah,
true. Well,
and
it is. If you're an artist in the part of the world that I live,
yeah,
it means that you're the most vulnerable sector of the
yeah,
society.
yeah,
You don't have any resources to do your art or even to feed yourself. Whatever you do, if it's against the sort of the wishes of the powerful, they can
yeah,
easily eliminate you.
yes,
And this is happening in a lot of South Asian countries and the Asian countries. So finding ways, and I think the artists are sort of these. They are very creative people. You know yourself. You can find so many solutions.
yeah,
Uh, and that, like Acrons, we also have a new initiative called Wartists. You know, it's an artist with a W, Wartists.
what
And we
is
were thinking about all these artists on the front lines. Just
uh-huh,
imagine if you're an artist in Yemen or in Libya or in Pakistan or in Afghanistan.
yeah, yeah,
And if you do any expression, if you do any work, your life is in danger. You can no
yeah,
longer breathe or walk or do anything. So
mm,
what if we find ways to support them? And as you did, congratulations for making Reykjavik as a Akron city. This
yeah,
is so important. Like I'm talking from experience, being in Kabul, being in Afghanistan, and then
yeah,
finding some support from outside that you could
yeah,
at least travel. Because for us, we can't travel. Nobody gives us a visa. You know,
no,
it's like you're locked down around that the whole country is locked down. Nobody
Yeah.
lets you leave. So having support from outside that you could at least travel, you could at least have some leverage to talk, to
That's
share
it.
your art, share your words. I think
No,
that is extremely important, and congratulations for doing that. And I hope it continues. And this is, I think, right now at this moment of time, it's more important to think about art, because I think
absolutely.
the world after this, artists are the people who could raise above everybody else and come up with ways and better solutions.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like when I am asked about my time as mayor here in Reykjavík, you know, and what I'm most, you know, what I'm most proud of, like what achievement are you most proud of? You know, I like to say, you know, I would like to say I'm most proud of being able to make Reykjavík an icon city, because I think that's probably the most important thing I was part of, an important thing. But people don't understand it when you tell them. They don't understand it. So I think it's also very, very important to share, to inform the public, the people, like in the West, that, you know, our human rights that we take for granted are not taken for granted in many, many parts of the world. And like for me as a comedian, I mean, I know of many comedians who are, you know, in hiding because they made fun of the wrong person.
Yeah.
Uh, only
True.
for a joke about some,
True.
yeah,
True.
yeah,
True.
cartoonists or stand-up stand-up comedians who said something about somebody, you know, and that somebody didn't like it. So it's yeah, it's absolutely horrendous. And I think, you know, and I think connecting people and delivering information about, you know, how yeah, like distributing information and making it, you know, in an artistic way is one of the best ways to change, to make people relate to other people's
Exactly. Exactly.
situations. Yeah, yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think you mentioned comedy, and you're doing comedy. You're writing comedy. Uh,
Yeah,
I think comedians, especially if you're thinking about concepts like Afghanistan and places that are in war and other places, comics are the best way to deliver a message. You know, to raise above everybody else
uh-huh.
really criticize the status quo. For example, right now in Afghanistan, we have one show which airs every Friday, I think, in the main TV station, and
Okay,
it's a comedy show. Four people,
uh-huh.
uh, and they are making fun of every situation that we find ourselves, from the
Yeah,
president to the head of the parliament to the police chief. So anything that these guys are doing, and
yeah,
and the people know that it's a comedy, because now, right now, everybody can judge you. They understand the politics, they understand the situation. So
yeah,
these guys are amazing, and these comics, they come up every week and night, and they make fun of them through music, through things, through dance. And then I think the whole country for that 1 hour sits around their TV sets and then
uh-huh.
watches this comic show in
So it's
Afghanistan.
like really popular.
Very popular, very popular. And they have important messages as well.
Yes,
Uh, and for us, where like you're sitting in a country, you mentioned people taking stuff for granted in the West, and I see it now for myself that they take a lot of things for granted. But for us
yeah,
outside in there in Afghanistan, so the only chance that you will get to laugh, for
uh-huh.
example, it's rare. In 24 hours, you rarely get a chance or find the reason to laugh, to smile,
Uh-huh.
or there's lack of empathy and love and kindness, because you're living in a war zone. So
yeah,
just imagine a comedian coming over and for 1 hour making you laugh.
yes,
So
exactly.
it really helps the psychology and the mental thinking as well.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that is something that, you know, I would be, you know, I had a talk with, I did a panel talk when I was in Texas. I did a panel talk with Egyptian comedian Bassem Youssef. I don't know if
yes,
you are familiar with him.
yes, I
And
am.
he was really popular in Egypt, and had his own TV show, and then he decided to flee because he feared for his security and health, and you know, for me, you know, being like a comedian in a peaceful country, Western country, you know, like making fun of politicians or whoever, you know, I've never had to, you know, fear. I mean, I have once been attacked by somebody who didn't like me. I was physically attacked, and then I have got threats. People have called me and threatened me, but it's not serious. You know, they're probably not going to do anything. And even when I went political, you know, I became the mayor of the city, and it was for many people considered very humiliating for the ruling political parties here in Iceland. So many influential, powerful people didn't think very highly of me, but I never felt that, you know, nobody would do me any, you know, social or physical harm. So you know, but you know, in a sense, it was, you know, dangerous. You know, I felt like I was doing something provocative and, you know, dangerous, but it's nothing close to like when I was talking with Bassem Youssef, like, you know, it's nothing close to the danger he experienced or what you have experienced in your country. So it's but it's so important to get information out about, you know, the living conditions of people all around the world, and especially like in the case of artists. Uh, Artists are usually gentle people.
They are.
Yeah, even death metal rockers are quite gentle people.
Yes. Yes.
uh,
Totally agree.
yeah, and because they have the artistic mindset, and it's quite open, and uh, and from my experience, for example, with ICORN, what surprised me as a person very much, and that's different from the information that I have received through the media, that like in Muslim countries, that that most people who are persecuted, it is because of something religious, but that is rarely the fact.
Mhm.
It's mostly political.
It is.
It's
Definitely.
mostly they insulted some general or some tyrant president, and sometimes, you know, like insulting the prophet or something is an excuse. Is like something that nobody can say anything against or something. So it's and so it's mostly politically motivated persecutions, and I think it's very important also here in the West as a tool against like Islamophobia, for example, and
Or refugees.
yeah, and refugees in general. Yeah, and because it's like the media here is the media in the West is, in my opinion, so many ways can be like biased. You know, it's sometimes like conflicts between, and uh, I've seen so many examples of this. Like, you know, you see a headline I saw a headline in an Icelandic newspaper, and it said Chinese warship sailing too close to American warship, and so I read it, and it's something that took place some months ago in the China Sea. It's a sea called the China Sea.
Yes, yes.
So what? So and I would and I think to myself, what is an American warship doing in a sea that is called China Sea? That sea is probably very close to China.
Yes.
If a Chinese warship was sailing by the coast of the US, I would understand it. But sometimes, the media sometimes adopts to what they think the public wants to hear.
Right.
So it's like, two warships, something, must be careful, and something, and sometimes, and I don't understand it. Like I've for different reasons, it's too long for me to explain, but I have been concerned about people in North Korea, in the People's Republic of North Korea, and I think it's a hellhole of a country, and I think people are suffering enormously. But here in the West, it's a joke, the evil regime and Kim Jong-un and Kim Il-sung and all the dictators. They're some sort of a joke, and it's like, but so like when I post something on social media and so about the situation in North Korea, it's nobody really cares, because we don't get the right information or something. I don't know. It's just
I think you're right, Leon, because usually what the West, what the media plays is they have news and they have articles, but
yes,
they tell you the stories. And it's our job to tell the stories, because unless the people don't hear the stories of the
no,
ordinary people, what is happening in North Korea right now, the only thing we hear is that Kim Jong-un is dead or not dead. That's the only headline you get, and this has been the same case for the last 15 years. You get the
yes,
same thing. They have reduced North Korea to just one person and one family, but there's a lot
yeah,
of stories out there, and I think
absolutely,
uh, there's a saying, good news is no news. So the media that just goes around and finds this US warship and Chinese warship, for example, in China Sea, or
yeah,
the Kim Jong-un, or drug and explosions in Afghanistan. They didn't tell you anything else. That's
no,
the only thing you hear. And that's how
no,
perceptions are built here in the West,
yes,
because people does not have maybe a lot of time, or they don't care to really go a little bit deep down and find ways to understand, to
mm,
know the story. But I think that will change. Because the mainstream media, I don't think so. They no longer have that kind of leverage all over the population. So, for example, right now, this blind date with you, from Afghanistan, Iceland, and we are talking about our stories. So this
Yeah.
could get out, or we can use our social media to writing something about it. I think we will contribute to building that story and that the whole picture about the whole country.
Yeah, I really hope so. And I have I have a longing to you know, to be part of that. And you know, I'm constantly thinking about ways, like with the with ICORN, and expanding ICORN here in Iceland. And it's something like you know, when I meet with officials from other towns and cities in Iceland to give them like a introduction to ICORN and how important it is and blah blah blah. And I've done my homework and I present it to them and I tell them about it and blah blah blah. But it they don't understand it. They don't understand the importance of it. But one of our first guests here is was yeah, the first guest we received here is a writer and poet and journalist from Palestine called Mazen Maarouf. And he was born and raised in Lebanon and just, you know, in a war zone like you described. And he came here. He was the first person we welcomed here, and he is now a citizen, Icelandic citizen. And he was, you know, without citizenship because he was Palestine living in Lebanon, and he was not Lebanese and he was not Palestinian. So, and it was, you know, I was trying to tell people, you know, inspire people, tell how amazing this is. We're welcoming an artist, you know, who was in critical danger and feared for his life, and he is now safe and writing poetry and it was like, you know, I was talking to journalists, friends of mine, and, you know, say, why can't you interview him, you know, do something and to get it out. And it was like, yeah, but people lack information and so on. And then he was shortlisted. He was nominated for the Man Booker Literary Prize.
Wow.
Which is a very prestigious literary prize. And then suddenly he got attention. Yeah, and it was amazing. It was brilliant. Then you know, people wanted to interview him because, you know, so it's yeah, and it's something I'm extremely proud of being part of. And I'm still on the board of ICORN here in Iceland.
That's important work. That's very important work, and I think it really makes a difference. And for some, and sometimes I don't blame a lot of people here in the West as well, because they don't have a lot of context. They don't have a lot of information. They don't know a lot of people. Once you have personal stories, once you know a person, then you get some time and attention to go and study that place. For example, right now, the history of the journalists from Lebanon and Palestine, and they don't have this feeling of being born, but without having an identity, a citizenship, a country, like that kind of a feeling is the only time that you will only know it if you are a person from Syria, from Palestine, from Afghanistan, where we have millions of our citizens who have been refugees. You will be refugees in camps in Pakistan. You will be refugees in camps in Iran. You're born, you're raised. You're not allowed to even go to school. because you don't have the proper documentation, or you cannot travel anywhere because you don't have the passport and all of that. So it's so difficult for the people to grasp that feeling that you don't have a home. You have a home, but you don't have a home. Like it's like you want to go back there in your own country, but you can't.
No.
And then the only way that you will leave your country is, I know if you're not, I know a lot of people who have left Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I know that every single one of them, if they had an opportunity to have a normal life meaning that their lives are not under threat, that they could at least live, they would continue. But I don't know, they can't. And with a lot of pain, they leave that country, the place that they're born, the place that they call it home. They leave it, and then they come and then find refuge somewhere like in Reykjavík. And then thank you to people like yourself that at least they can find a refuge.
Yes. Yeah. And but I wish we could welcome much more people, many more people. I wish we could do that, and it's something that we're working on. But it has occurred to me that, you know, this epidemic of the coronavirus that is going all around the world, where people are forced by, like, a force majeure to be isolated in their homes and restricted from going around their daily routines. And like in many countries, you have to have paperwork and ID to show to the police. That's very unusual in the West. And maybe, and I've been thinking, maybe this period will change mindset of many people, what it means to to be stripped of the freedom of movement that you take for granted, like a Westerner. This year I want to go to Vietnam and I want to travel there, and but next year I'm going to Tibet or whatever, and to be, and maybe it will create empathy. And I think that's one of the secrets of the secret things of literature and art, that it plants empathy. It makes empathy cells in your brain, and suddenly you empathize with people you don't know, because you know their story through their art, or through their through their music, or through their literature, and it becomes personal.
It does.
And so but do you miss your country? Do you miss Afghanistan?
Oh yeah, every single day. I miss Kabul every single day. I would pay anything to be back there right now. But at the same time, you also understand that the situation is very, very different. And my plan is that hopefully, as soon as this quarantine and this restriction stops, so I go back. I have a couple of projects coming up, which is we have youth events, and hopefully that will bring a little bit of hope, because there's a lot of work that we have to do, and it's very critical time for Afghanistan as well. So that is what I'm looking forward to, these times when I'm confined to my room and not going out. So that's what I'm looking out and I'm planning for.
Yeah. So and I can say the same thing about Iceland. Iceland is it's actually a weird kind of place to be born in and live in, because it sometimes feels that, also because of the historical isolation of Iceland through history. It's been very isolated until just, in the 20th century. And sometimes, because, it's an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, the climate here is really harsh. And it's also quite volcanic. We have eruptions and earthquakes, and sometimes it feels like being here feels like being on a different planet, because you're not considered kind of always. Sometimes you will see maps of the world, like world maps, especially older maps, and Iceland isn't even on the world maps. It's just
Wow.
because it's so few people, and it's so far away and so remote, and I've, when living here, I sometimes felt like I was suffocating from this, being so far away from everything. But then when I tried living abroad, I lived in Sweden. I really like Sweden. Have you been there in Sweden?
I haven't been to Sweden, no.
No, it's absolutely, in my opinion, a wonderful country. It's yeah, and I lived there for 2 years, and and I was homesick. I wanted to travel to my faraway planet. Because I love it. I because it's my place.
I know. As you said, it's my place. It feels home. We can travel all over the world. We can live anywhere we want to. For some of us, but I think end of the day, the place that you were born, raised, and then you have lived all your life, and every single street and every single bakery and restaurant, and people know you. So I think that is a completely different feeling
Yes.
that you will have. And I think, I hope that one day, especially after this pandemic, there's at least people are thinking about the world peace, or at least that we have a bigger enemy now, the viruses that we can even not see, so that it gives the humanity a chance to be more, as you said, with empathy, with kindness, with love, that we can all be able to go to our homes or travel wherever you want to, and help each other.
Yeah, I really hope that. I mean, if something positive is going to come out of this pandemic, it's I hope it's going to be, people are going to realize better that, like, we, humanity, we are one species and we're one family, and we should, find ways to communicate and get along better, because we have a mutual enemy, and it's not each and every one of us. It's stuff like virus, and maybe it will, and I hope it will, bring people closer together. Yeah, and I, it will be very interesting to see, like, like, and I know, like, for instance, here in Iceland, people are forbidden. Hugging is forbidden.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's so, like, when I watch, like, a television series or something, and people are hugging or shaking hands and stuff, and it feels like weird to me, because when I go and visit my mother-in-law, she is 83, so she's in total isolation. And we go to her, we bring her groceries, we have gloves on, and we don't hug her, and it's just something we took for granted before, to get a hug, but now we can't. We're not allowed to hug her, and I think I think people will appreciate hugs in a completely different way when this is all over.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been amazing. Yeah, and I so much look forward. I think we needed this break. I think humanity needed this break to just like think through some of the stuff, some of the things that we do, and especially we were taking it for granted. The human touch, the connection, the friendships, the hug, the relationships. So all of that, I think uh, the new world will be, hopefully will be more kind, friendlier to everyone, not just a group of us. And I think I I don't know what will be the new, like when this will end. I don't know if there will be like something that it will say, okay, tomorrow everything is back to normal. I don't think so. That will happen.
No.
So there will be gradual changes. But whatever it is, I think as the artists, the people who are, I think we have a responsibility to just go out there and make sure that we have a better world.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope so. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Yeah,
Have you
yeah.
have you any plans to visit Iceland?
I hope so. If I can get a visa, why not? I love traveling. So usually for me, with my Afghan passport, it gets a bit difficult to get a visa. But I would love to. I've heard so much about Iceland. I know its geography, the country,
Yeah.
and Cedric has told me about you. I would love to. And as soon as hopefully this thing finishes, I will definitely come, and I hope to find you and then meet you and invite you maybe to Afghanistan someday if
Yeah, I
permits.
would love to. I would love to visit Afghanistan, and I've read, I've read books uh, 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 by Afghan writers, and like like Kite Runner and books like that, and so and I had the opportunity. The funny thing is, like what we did here politically with the Best Party was like groups of artists, me as a comedian running for an office and became mayor, and like to some people didn't matter much. Like small country, it would be completely different if it would happen in a bigger country, more serious country. And then it did. It happened in Ukraine. A comedian in Ukraine was inspired by my story, and he decided to run for president, Volodymyr Zelensky, and
Yes.
he became the president of Ukraine, and I was invited to Ukraine, and there is serious situation. Ukraine is at war with Russia, and there is corruption, like on a very like super corruption, and then I realized that what one person does is inspiring, can be inspiring to another person, really.
True.
And so yeah, and I've been asked, you know, I would love to see more artists, writers, and musicians, you know, go political. I would think it, you know, I would love to see it, for instance, in America. I mean,
Oh,
they have all these entertainers and comedians, and why are they stuck on television? Why aren't they out there, you know, taking part? Why don't they
but
run for
they're
office?
quite famous as well. People
Yeah,
love
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jimmy
So
Fallon, Trevor Noah, all of these people are.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, to be, you know, directly involved with, not just, you know, in the safety of the TV, you know, making fun of Trump, you know, stand in front of Trump and make fun of him, you know, it's like and win a debate against him, you know. So it's you know, leave the security of your television set and step out, and you know,
Um,
and yeah,
that's amazing. I hope they do. I think they will, and I think we are more connected in the world right now than we were ever before.
yes,
So we get inspired. We get stories, your stories, Zelensky's story, and these stories travel all over the world in just a matter
yes,
of minutes, and then
yes,
people get
yeah,
inspired.
yeah,
So hopefully there will be more. I'm sure there will be more.
yeah.
And as I get the guidance from our friends from Cedric says any book recommendations or movies. I've been watching a lot of TV recently. I
Good.
just watched this movie from South Korea, The Parasite. Have you watched it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, it was
Uh,
quite an interesting movie. I really enjoyed it.
yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I have. My son is living now in Seoul, in Korea,
Oh, okay. Okay.
and so I've been following. I've also been watching a series on Netflix. It's a Korean series called Kingdom. It's a
Okay.
zombie series that take place some in the 14th or 15th century. So they're fighting zombies with swords and stuff, and it's absolutely brilliant. So I've been yeah, I really liked Parasite. It was an amazing movie. Uh, I was thinking about, you know, I'm always, you know, I'm watching I'm watching television all the time. I read a lot, and I listen to podcasts, and there was one podcast I thought, and it really you know, it really hit me. It's called the Other Latif. Have you heard about it?
No.
No. Uh, it's a guy who who is I don't remember exactly. I think his family is from Morocco, and he grew up in the U.S. And his name is Latif, and Mohammed Latif, or I don't remember. Yeah, and so there is a web page called something like "How Many of Me," and he Googles his name on this website, "How Many of Me," and he finds out there's another guy with exactly the same name in the US, and he can't find, in the beginning he can't locate that person and find that person, and then he finds it. So this other Latif is a prisoner in Guantanamo Bay, in the prison camp.
Wow.
Wow. And it's considered United States, but it's not. It's Cuba. And so he goes on a mission to try to get in contact with the other Latif. And it's just amazing. He goes everywhere. He goes to Afghanistan. He goes to Morocco. He travels all over the world. And it was just breathtaking. It was something I binged. It's like 7 episodes or something, and I just binged it. I do it when I walk my dog, and he got a really long walk.
Wow. I would love to. Now I have something to listen to. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure.
I've never been on a blind date before.
Same here.
But I really enjoy talking to you, and enjoy your time in Boston. And I hope to be able to welcome you here in Iceland, or to visit you and your group in Afghanistan.
Hopefully. Thank you so much, and have a nice rest of the day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.